what to expect for tomorrow. I want to go in very in depth on that, going over some plays for tomorrow, but overall consumer price index and how it will affect tomorrow, and overall just how to play SPY levels and the whole market for tomorrow. So pretty much the whole market dropped today because China had its consumer price index and inflation data today. United States has it tomorrow, so I want to keep you guys prepared for tomorrow. So taking a look at China's inflation data, it was pretty bad. The estimate was 7.9%, and the actual report was 8.3%. Think about it, 8.3% increase on inflation. The annual average return for the S&P 500 is 8%. So definitely, this caused a lot of fear, and this is very scary on how high inflation really is. So for tomorrow, we have right at market open the consumer price index. Again, consumer price index tracks inflation. So imagine, a 5-gallon milk or, some apples, and it tracks all of those basket of goods, groceries, and oil, and it makes it a huge, a basket, and it tracks the average price increase year over year and month over month. So overall, anything above 8%, 8.3%, is going to be very fearful for the market. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that, we already had China with its CPI, and the market usually likes to price in that fear. So overall, we have been dropping pretty bad for the market, down 3% the past week. If we take a look at kind of like the 6 month, we're down over 4.69%. So the market is definitely trying to price in that fear. Even taking a look at the SPY daily, the market is really trying to price in that fear. Now, again, right when market opens, the data is going to be available, and the market, by then should kind of like gap up or gap down to the report. So right at market open, couple minutes before market open or 1 hour before market open, go to CNBC. I'll leave a update on all the servers that I alert for, and I'll post a CPI on Twitter, so make sure to follow me on Twitter. So I'll post a CPI on Twitter, and overall, if the market gaps up, we had some decent data. If it gaps down, we had fearful. And keep in mind, it's just about that. If things are not getting worse, even if the CPI is 7%, as long as if things are not getting worse, that is good for the market. Now let's go over and let's take a look at the technical analysis for the SPY. So market gap down today, we dropped pretty bad, and as we talked about on the weekly watch list, 440 is our major level of support. Now since we broke off 446, now we have 440. Market respected that level. Now I did grab in like one lotto call, just as a lottery, but overall this is a pretty nice level of support. Now what happens if CPI is bad? Well, if we break 440, our next level of support is 430. One thing to keep in mind is that I'm not just making these numbers up. You can take a look at the chart. These are major levels of support. Right over here. These are levels of support that the market respects. So please, chart these levels out and play accordingly to these levels. So if the market does drop below 440, 430 is definitely going to be next. I'm also going to be taking a look at the volume, because as you guys know, whenever the market drops, sometimes we get a huge surge in volume, which kind of shows us that a lot of buyers are coming in. Right over here, it's pretty interesting. We're kind of starting to get a inclining volume. So this is definitely going to be very interesting for the S&P 500. And then overall, we have a nice gap up. Now, what happens if the market is bullish, consumer price index is not that bad? Well, we could see definitely a bounce over 440, and our resistance is going to be 446 resistance. So overall, that is it for SPY, and let's take a look at QQQ. Now, QQQ dropped even more, since it is a lot of growth stocks, and it is at a major level of support. Now, QQQ looks definitely a lot more interesting, and I have a lot more stuff to say on QQQ. So taking a look at QQQ, we have two visible gaps. So definitely great plays for the future. We could see that 340 major level of support. If we break 340, things are going to be looking extremely bad because we really don't have a stronger support than 340. Now, we could also see that, this is a very nice level of support. And if the market does bounce tomorrow and the consumer price index is not that bad, we could be setting up for a massive inverse head and shoulder for the market. So things are looking very interesting for the Qs for tomorrow. But overall, 340 is a very major level of support. The market tried, pricing in that inflation data. It has to be very bad for the market to keep dropping now. Now, overall, that is it for QQQ. QQQ does definitely look a lot more appealing than the SPY, so I'm definitely watching the Qs. Watch these levels. If the market is bullish and the market starts kind of turning back up, consumer price index is pretty good. We're going to have a very nice gap play because we kind of gapped down today. So we can be setting up for a very nice gap fill and to possibly play calls to fill this gap tomorrow. Now, an actual stock that I'm actually watching is Etsy. So Etsy looks very interesting. We have a very nice descending triangle. We can see right over here, 117 major level of support. Again, if the CPI is good, we can actually play this to the upside because descending triangles are a neutral pattern, but a higher chance of being a bearish pattern. But we could see calls around 128 if it decides to break out. Definitely watching Etsy. If we start breaking support at the market open, this could be a great put play on Etsy. And AMD looks extremely interesting. Again, on the daily, we gapped down. The whole market did, and we were expecting that gap down and to kind of hit this level of support, which is 94-ish. Okay, so we could see that it is at a major level of support, and we have a massive ascending triangle. Now, it is sitting at a very nice level of support. This could be a nice leap play with a very tight stop loss, but just keep in mind, take a look at the weekly. This looks very nice, or we can kind of just end up kind of like, PayPal, SQ, Roku, and just keep dropping. We don't know, but if you are playing, keep in mind of these levels. Okay, these are very crucial levels for the market right over here. So we have 95 being a major level for AMD, so just keep that in mind. So let's go back on the daily. Definitely watching AMD. Now, CVX I thought was pretty interesting because kind of like the whole market gap down, and CVX is oil, and it is sitting at right at level of support. So buying in calls right over here with a very tight stop loss looks very interesting. The overall setup on CVX looks very nice. Just keep in mind that once we start breaking this support, this play invalidates, and the ascending triangle does not matter and it does not count anymore. So that is just something to keep in mind. I'm definitely watching CVX for tomorrow if the market does bounce, because CVX is getting extremely tight over here. And as you guys know, with Russia and Ukraine and with all of these catalysts, oil is definitely a play for this week. Now, things are looking very interesting for banks because we actually have the earnings season coming up, and banks are kind of starting the earnings, and then we have airlines, and slowly then we actually have tech. So as you guys know, earnings are coming up. We also have summer coming up, and as you guys know, summer is a huge season for earnings, Apple event, all of that good stuff. Now, banks are starting up earnings, and banks are kind of setting up right over here, kind of like a wick play. So I'm definitely watching banks. We have April 18th being the earnings for Bank of America. Now, overall, that is it. The last thing I wanted to talk about was coin, and then I'm done for this video. As guys know, coin is breaking all-time lows, so definitely a play for a put play because we're breaking down the channel, and then we're breaking down all-time low, which a lot of people are gonna hit stop losses on, which can kind of cause a whole major trigger for coin. Overall, hope you guys enjoyed this video. In return, all I ask is to just hit that like button. That is all. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. See you guys right at market open, and things are going to be very, very interesting. And overall, bye bye.